Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another Books Beside My Bed video. For those of you who are new here, I film one of these every week where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading, and for those who are very familiar with the series, welcome back. This is my reading week from the 16th until the 22nd of August. I read a total of 6 books this week, 3 novels, 3 picture books, and I DNF'd 3 novels as well, because apparently that's what's happening during this time, is I'm starting things and just going, no, I'm done. I also read a total of 1,205 pages and my yearly reading total is up to 178 books. The update with the MCU rewatch is we have watched Spider-Man Homecoming and Doctor Strange, and I think tonight, the day that I'm filming on Sunday, we might be watching Black Panther, so we are getting along there. But yeah, aside from that, let's just jump into the books. I'll really quickly start with my 3 DNFs, and they're all for various reasons. I'll be super brief on them. The Orchid Underground by Matt Larkin, which is an Australian middle grade book, which I got maybe 20 pages into and then just went, I'm not actually interested in reading it. So I will take it to school and pop it into my middle grade book collection at work for kids, because just because it's not for me doesn't mean that the kids won't enjoy it. They like a mystery story. I'm just not in the mood for middle grade books at the moment. I also DNF'd Little Stones by Elizabeth Cooper. I was given this as a review copy last year, but literary fiction and I do not mix, and this one I only got 3 pages in before I just went, I'm not even remotely interested, so this one will be going to. And probably the one I'm most disappointed in DNFing is Angel Mage by Garth Nix, which is a young adult fantasy book with angels. I really wanted to like this book, and I did to an extent, and I got about 130 pages into the book, and I realized I was just pushing through because I was trying to like it, and I didn't, so yes, this one is going. All right, so now into the books that I did read this week. I'm going to start with the picture books first. So all 3 of these picture books are review copies sent to me from Scholastic. So the first one is the Wildest Book Week Ever 2020 release from Scholastic. This is written by Heath Mackenzie, and this is celebrating the traditional book week here in Australia, where for 1 week, most schools, kinders, libraries, anywhere that celebrates books, celebrates the Children's Book Council Australia Award for picture book, young children's book, etc. of the year. And in most schools, there's some form of book parade or where the kids dress up as their favourite book character. And this goes through all the weird and wacky sort of combinations that you get. So it was very cute, very funny, and, you know, very relatable. I think this was due for release in what would normally traditionally be Book Week, which is around about now in Australia, but Book Week this year has been pushed back obviously because of COVID. So we will have Book Week in October this year, but I'm so glad to have this because I'll definitely share it with my kids. I gave The Wildest Book Week Ever 4.5 out of 5 stars. Then there is BU by Peter H. Reynolds. This is, again, a 2020 release from Scholastic. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. Peter H. Reynolds writes the most beautiful books for children. And this one is all about loving and accepting yourself because you are amazing, and you are amazing for being you, not for trying to fit in with everyone else. And it goes through all sorts of different stages, from be patient, be adventurous, be brave, and it's just gorgeously illustrated. So I'm so glad to have this one, and this is one that will definitely get shared during a remote teaching session for sure. And the third picture book that I received from Scholastic for their August 2020 releases is GHOSTBEAR by Paul McDermott. Paul McDermott is a very famous sort of Australian comedian, actor, writer, screenwriter, so forth here in Australia. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. It is beautifully illustrated. I mean, I love the very stark illustrations. So it's all very light colours on a really black background, so forth. And it is kind of hard to describe. So it's about a little bear cub who is lost in the snow and is trying to reunite with his loved ones. He goes on a bit of a journey to do that. But it was just beautiful and poignant, and it's one of those books that you just sit there and you read and you think about for a while. So those were all the picture books. So now we get into the 3 novels. I have 1 middle grade and 2 adult novels. The first novel is The Girl with Space in Her Heart by Lara Wilkinson. This is a middle grade novel. It is a general fiction novel. You think partway through the story that it could possibly be a bit of magical realism in it, but really it's not. It is the story of Mabel, who lives with her mother and her sister. Her father has left mysteriously at some point in the past, and Mabel and her sister really don't know anything about it or why it happened, just that her parents had a massive argument before he left. Mabel's mother has started dating someone new called Galactic Gavin, and Mabel is really starting to connect with him and really likes him and likes the way that he treats her mother and herself and her sister. But Mabel's sister becomes convinced that Gavin is not the right person for their mother and sets out trying to reveal the truth of galactic Gavin. The whole thing has the undercurrent of Mabel's obsession with space. She adores everything space related, and that's where she mostly connects with Gavin on that level, because he also knows a lot about space, so he engages her a lot in those conversations. But as Mabel and her sister try and uncover the truth of Gavin, they also unwittingly uncover the truth of their family. The whole thing is quite poignant and a really nice story. I wasn't convinced that I was going to get all the way through it because I'm really struggling with middle grade at the moment, but this one kept my attention. And I think I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. I also read Daring and the Duke by Sarah MacLean. This is book 3 in the Bare Knuckle Bastards series. It is the concluding book in that series. It is a 2020 release from Avon Books. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I was pleasantly surprised with how Sarah MacLean pulled off the ending in this one. Because in this series, the main character Grace is the 3rd and final member of the Bare Knuckle Bastards trio, and the only woman in the trio. And this is her romance with Ewan, who has been the antagonist through the other 2 books. There was a lot of trepidation going into it about how this was all going to be resolved. I mean, I trusted Sarah MacLean would find a way to do it because I quite like her writing in the way that she does weave stories together. But this one was really fascinating about how she was not only going to redeem Ewan, but also Grace in a way, because none of the Bare Knuckle Bastard characters in the series are also free from blame. I mean, Ewan is definitely an antagonist. He did some really dodgy things. But I think the way that she wove it all together, both a redemption storyline, but also the ability for all of the characters to air their grievances with Ewan as well, was really well done. So I really enjoyed it. It is obviously a historical romance, and Grace is a fabulous lead character. I really loved her, and it was nice to round out a trilogy. And the book that sort of broke my DNFing spree of novels this week was Chasing Lucky by Jen Bennett. You guys know that I love Jen Bennett's work. This is her 2020 release from Simon & Schuster. It is a young adult contemporary book. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. It's really funny because I love Jen Bennett's books, and I know that she can pull me out of anything because I trust her implicitly in the way that in her writing. And yet in the back of my mind, I'm always comparing everything she writes to Starry Eyes. And I mean, let's be real. That's a hell of a standard to live up to. But Chasing Lucky is the story of Josie, who lives with her mother, and the 2 of them are returning to their hometown, this small little coastal town called Beauty. Her mother and her mother's family has always talked about this curse that plagues the women of the family, in that they are never able to maintain a long-lasting relationship. Something always happens. Either the relationships go bad, the partners die from various things, or whatever. So this idea has permeated all of the women in the family. So by the time we meet a lot of the main characters, we have Josie, who's never been in her relationship, her mum, who is going through strings and strings of one-night stands, her grandmother, who has gone off to Nepal with Josie's aunt, whose husband had passed away just recently, leaving Josie's cousin, Evie, there to run the family's little bookshop with Josie's mother. And throughout the story, Evie is involved in a really unhealthy relationship as well. So there's a whole lot of things in there around people's notion of what is a healthy and what isn't a healthy relationship, and how people deal with that. On top of this, when Josie returns, she is basically confronted by her childhood best friend, Lucky, who was the son of the local boat mechanic, and they were great friends growing up. But just before Josie and her mother left town, very unexpectedly, Lucky had been involved in an accident and was scarred. He was involved in a fire, and so Josie wasn't there while he recovered, and even though she tried to contact him, she never heard from him again. So initially their first meeting is kind of fraught because Josie's not really sure where she stands with Lucky. She wants to reconnect with him, but he seems to be very mad at her. And the 2 go through a lot of trying to reconnect with each other. And there's an obvious attraction between the 2 of them, but Josie's very reluctant because she knows about her family's curse, and she just doesn't know really what she wants. And the story sort of goes from there. I feel like this is a lot more angsty than some of her other YA contemporary books. I don't know, it just felt like it was a little bit more dramatic, but it was very entertaining, and I did like the arc of the story and the way that their relationship developed, and the way that Josie was then also able to reconnect not only with her mother but with the other women in her family. So those are the books that I have read in the last week. In the comments below, let me know if you have read any of these books or if you're planning on reading them in the future. Otherwise, feel free to let me know something that you have been reading over the last 7 days. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you are staying safe and healthy, and I will see you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.